Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video sponsored by Simon Says Stamp. Today we're going to be using some of their products to create a fun scene card. I showed you the Snowflakes die, but I didn't end up using it. So I am using the Carol Singers stamps and dies as well as the Christmas Town stamp set. The Christmas Town stamp set is from last year and I totally loved it when it first came out. And then Christmas season was here and gone and I never even got a chance to use it, which was a real bummer. So I knew for sure that I wanted to be able to use it this Christmas season. So I laid everything out of my mini Misty, don't mind the door. My son, quote unquote, cleaned it. Yeah, looks real clean, right? Anyway, and so I laid them all out. I stamped them on some Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and then I also stamped them again on a piece of masking tape, cut those all out, masked everything. Then I pulled off another piece of the 3M Scotch tape to just freehand some hills. You know, it doesn't have to be anything great, grand, wonderful. There's going to be a lot going on in this card. Nobody's going to notice that if my hill is off. So for the sky, I am doing same color combination I've been doing all winter, and I gotta be honest, there's probably no end in sight for this one. So Salty Ocean, Blueprint Sketch, Chip Sapphire. I kept this one a little bit lighter toward the horizon than I have been doing. Also, something to note, I wanted the tree stand, like where they're selling the trees, to be glowy. Except I forgot I wanted it to be glowy before I put the blue down. So I just took some fossilized amber and put it over top. And right now it looks pretty green, but hang tight. It'll look yellow by the yellowish by the end of it. So I'm removing that mask and I just wanted to create a couple of more little hills. I knew I was going to have like a little street thing going on, and but I didn't want the foreground to just have nothing, so I'm using just the same mask, repositioning it so the hills don't look identical, and then going in with just some Salty Ocean and kind of a very light hand, just to create those shadows since it's a white object. Since I had what was that? Blueprint Sketch and Chip Sapphire also on that mask. It made it like a little bit darker than regular Salty Ocean, but I'm fine with it as long as it was blue based. Went over that area with the fossilized amber. I didn't even re-ink the foam pad. I just kind of went right over it with what was left over on there, so that the whole thing would be glowy and it wouldn't just be glowy in the sky. I'm using a T-square ruler to kind of set my scene here. My game plan, the way I envisioned it, was to be like part of a driveway and then like a little walk up with a porch that was sitting right there that I would put my why can't I say carolers? What is going on? Oh, enunciation is so hard. Anyway, so I wanted this to look like if you had opened your front door and you had these little carolers. Why is that start word? Carolers on your front porch. So I did the whole thing in pencil first, and then I did the whole thing in pen, and that sidewalk is a little wonky, but I'm not stressing over it because most of it's going to be covered up, honestly. So for the street, the cement driveway, sidewalk, and porch area, I'm using some cool grays. I did really just kind of minimal shading on that street. I knew it would be a little bit darker behind, like the further it was away, so I added the darker edge on the far side. I'm also adding some shading into my little white picket fence with the C1 and the C3, just kind of up from the bottom, bringing that C3 up just a little bit along each side of the fence posts. There's a little teeny tiny sign for the tree selling stand. I colored the middle in white there, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the driveway. So I filled it all in with the C1. I did have to re-ink my marker. It wasn't great. I wasn't getting good saturation, so that's part of the reason why it is missing. Because I just forgot to turn the little recorder back on. My bad. And then I'm going to do just a little bit of shading on the sidewalk. This isn't anything I'm super concerned about because I'm going to do a little technique on it. And now, see, I had to re-ink my C1 before, and now I have to re-ink my C3. Look at that. Look at how sad it is. It's just barely putting out any ink. And then I'm going to go back in with the C5 and just kind of hit all of those same little areas For the sidewalk, I did the furthest edge away, but then also kind of right behind the porch so that it would look like it was behind it. Again, you're not even going to see this. It doesn't even matter that I'm doing it. It's totally unnecessary. But I wanted to show you guys the technique in case for some reason you plan on doing another card where hopefully you draw a better sidewalk than I did. But that way you could just see what was up there. So I'm adding the darker shading now for the porch closer to me so that the highlight will be on the edge of it. Because I imagine like if there was like with my porch, we have like a little bit of an overhang. So that's usually in shadow, I guess is how I was thinking about it. And then here I did not re-ink my W3 yet, but don't worry, I'm going to. I'm going to give it up. I'm finally going to realize that I just have to do it. So going in with the C1 because I'm still being lazy and trying not to have to re-ink that one marker, which I don't even know why because I use my cool grays so often. I don't know who I'm kidding that I thought that I was going to blend the C1 into the C5, which you can clearly see is not working at all. So now we're re-inked and we're doing it again. Just going in with that C3 and then blending out with the C1. The blending is not perfect, but it doesn't matter because we're going to do like a texture technique. So I've seen Kathy Rakusin do this a ton of times. I have tried this before in the past. Basically, you need some colorless blender and kind of like a square of like an old rag. This happens to be, I'm not even kidding you, my husband, an old sock of my husband's. I'm so cheap. Anyway, so I just put the colorless blender on there and then just kind of like blotted it along and it makes it look more like stamped concrete. This is the first time I've ever really had any real success with it. One of the things to know about this technique though is it can cause your colors to bleed outside your lines. So I am going in with a colorless blender pen just to kind of clean up just the edges of it. Going to use the same C1 and the C3 to add some shading to my snowman. And then I'm going to go over that with a B quadruple 0 just so it doesn't look quite so gray. Why did I use a sack for this? Let me tell you why I used a sack. So in my household, everybody's got multiple jobs. Everybody got a ton of jobs. I have 3. My husband has 2. One of the ones that he does is lawn care. And so as his regular socks wear out, he turns them into lawn care socks. And my husband, pretty self-sufficient when it comes to the laundry. I don't typically do his laundry. He usually does his own. But one night I was helping him fold socks and I realized that basically his lawn care socks had no bottoms to them. Like I was like, this is horrendous. And he was like, keep your judgment to yourself, woman. I just need them for lawn care. They don't have to be in great condition. And I said, here's the deal. If it has one hole in it, I will allow a small hole in it. I will allow you to keep it. But if it has 2, it's going and I will use them as dust rags. And, basically he had so many pairs. I actually ended up buying him socks for Christmas, which is like a really super joyous gift, but he needs them. I mean, you should have seen oh my gosh, they're just so bad. The condition that these socks were in was shameful. So anyway, I just cut them in half and use them as dust rags to like dust my house. And, I used one of them as the craft thing because I needed something that had texture on it. So there we are. So back to the coloring. The glowy part is going to be giving off more light. So that side of the house is going to be lighter. That's why you saw when I did the roof that I added the shading. Also to make it look further set back, I am shading the right-hand side of the house darker as well. Because again, that's going to be the furthest away from the light and you want it to look dimensional. So it needs to be darker. So it looks kind of inset or to the side. I'm also adding just a teeny tiny little bit of shading next to the roof overhang on the left-hand side to help that have a little bit of dimension. And so yeah, this is really just something that is, I guess to me, is pretty easy to do. Just find your light source and then color that side lighter. That's like the easiest way to explain this type of shading. I'm not really doing, too much over blending. I am coloring in there's a couple little like bricks that are drawn in. I'm coloring those in with the darker browns just for some contrast. And then I'm using the flicking motion to blend in my colors because they don't necessarily blend in perfectly. I colored the chimney on the house with the same brown colors, but then for some reason I completely forgot about it and stopped shading it. So I'm going to have to go back and do that. And again, I just made the right-hand side just a little bit darker. I'm going to go back in there again and color up the brick some different colors, but that's going to be way further on in the end. I added a little bit of this yellow marker. Previously, I had added it to the fence posts, and now I added it to the windows on that side, as well as a little bit to the house, just to give it kind of a yellow glow, that it was like reflecting that light. And at the end of this card, or maybe you noticed in the beginning of the card, you really can't see a lot of the detail that I'm putting into it. That's okay. That doesn't bother me, because making YouTube videos for you guys is something that I really like to do. And maybe the scene on the back end of this card, this whole little town that we're doing, that could be a card in and of itself. And maybe you have this set or a set similar to that, and it's something that you want to do. I'm here, I guess, to show you guys what I know. And if I don't want to cheat you out of it. If it's something that you don't want to know, or that you already know, or that you don't care to know, then great, skip it. That's totally fine. So for the trees that are in the glowy section, I used a YG01 as my lightest color. For this tree on the right-hand side, he's not all aglow, so he's going to be a little bit darker. I skipped the YG01 and went straight to the YG03. I'm adding shading to the left and the right-hand side of each tree to give them a little bit of dimension, and then we're going to add in the texture a little bit later. I frequently, when I color, I like to put in the shadows first, before I do anything else. For this large tree on the left, I did not do the left and the right hand side. I only did the left hand side because the right hand side is it's in the glow. In the glow. Doesn't that sound like something that's fun? It's probably not that fun, but it sounds fun. So anyway, adding that darker shading, and now that I'm getting out to the darkest color, I'm going to start adding in the texture. And the way that I'm going to do that is with those flicking motions. So I'm going to kind of flick inside from the left and the right. I'm also going to do just some random lines in the middle. And this is just going to help give it a little bit of dimension and texture so that it looks like a tree and not just like a flat triangle that has nothing going on in the front. I'm going to keep most of the shading on this tree on the left-hand side to the left-hand side, like the darker shading. I will, once I get done going through all of the colors, so the YG17, the 05, and then the YG03, once I get back out to the lightest color, I will fill them in with that YG01. So if you're doing this technique and you feel like, I don't know, maybe the texture is a little bit too bold for you, go over it again with your lightest color, and that'll help it blend and just kind of soften that out so it's not so much in your face texture, and then maybe you might like it better. It just depends on what kind of look you're going for. For the lantern, which honestly you cannot even see by the time that this card is done, like at all, I'm just going to fill it in with a Y08 shade with a Y38, also get that little snowman's nose, and then add just a touch of red with an R35. I'm going to bring in an R29 and a 59 for the snowman's hat. Oh, and then also I did the little border on this, what do they call those? Sandwich boards. That's what they're called. Hey, look at that. I managed to like pluck a word out of thin air almost immediately when I needed it. Christmas miracle. So then I'm using those same reds to go back into that brick that's on the house, just into the chimney, and add a little bit there. Now that this is done, normally at the end of a card, I do my white gel pen, I do the outlining, all of that stuff. I'm going to do that part now for this because I am basically done with it. All I need to do now is color up my characters and put them on there. So I added some white gel pen to the lights. I added some white gel pen lights to the house. And then I also added just like some strings of garland to the two trees that are not part of the being sold. To make the house look just a little bit more festive, I went in and did almost like a heart shape with my YG03. And then I just added a couple of little berries so it looked like holly garland that was across their fence. I thought that was fun and kind of festive. And then I did outline everything here because that's just how I roll. So we're moving on to, we're 15 minutes in. I hope you brought a snack and a beverage and you're lying in a comfortable position in your pajamas because here we are. It's going to be a minute because we're still not done coloring. Coloring. That's a lot of it going on in this card. So I did want to just briefly touch on, I'm not going to talk about the whole thing because basically it's super depressing and I don't want to talk about depressing things on my YouTube channel. But I will mention it because I know a lot of you guys like to hear the stories about my son. And I did mention that he had a Christmas pageant. And so we went to his Christmas pageant and he looked totally adorable. And unlike Thanksgiving, he did participate and he did the singing and the dancing. And I'm sure that would have been just amazing. Side note, I'm coloring his scarf in red, even though I wanted his jacket to be red because I just literally was not paying attention to what I was doing. So I'm going to fix that later. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I didn't actually want him to be in like one monochromatic suit. That was not the game plan. But anyway, so my mom and dad, my grandmother, my husband's parents, me and my husband load up, go into this packed auditorium to watch my little Peanut do all of the things that he is doing. And there's like a whole class full of kids up there and they're super cute and they're singing all their little songs and everything, except for, I couldn't actually see my son. Oh, Lord, have mercy. It was so, I know it's not the teacher's fault because they cannot be just watching all, like they're in the middle of a program. It is what it is. But there were two boys who were supposed to be in the row in front of my son who ended up somehow getting into his row and stood directly in front of him. Like, so I got to see like a fourth of his face pretty much the entire time. I don't really have any photos. So I was worried. I was upset because I didn't get to see him, but then I was worried about him being upset because these boys were standing in front of him. And when I went to pick him up from his room, he didn't seem upset at all. In fact, he didn't even seem to notice. So I decided I wasn't going to, make a thing of it. I was just going to let it go. But in case you were wondering what happened with the Christmas pageant, that's what happened with the Christmas pageant. And it was a bummer, but it is what it is. Hopefully it won't be the only one he's ever in. And, it'll get better from this one experience that we had. So, anywho, on a lighter note and a happier note, you guys have been voting over in my community poll, which I totally love. And it seems like 50% of you are totally about Storytime and you really don't necessarily care what it is I make, which I got to tell you is great news for me because then that just kind of lets me be me. Which I really like. So, but Copic's watercolors and scene cards were all at about 11%. What was the Clean and Simple was actually the only slightly higher percentage. I think it was like 20 or something. Wait, what's the math on that? So it was 50% of you didn't care what I made. Sorry, I didn't turn my phone off. That's an email. 50% of you didn't care what I made. Like 20% of you wanted Clean and Simple cards, which Clean and Simple cards do not go with Storytime at all. I just cannot tell a story in that short amount of time, even when I leave in all of the stuff. And then, so what's left? 30%. So yeah, that's about right because it was like 10-ish% for involved scene cards, watercoloring, and Copics. So I'll just keep doing what I've been doing. And then I don't know how you guys feel about the community tab, if you had trouble finding it or if you like it. I super like having a way to instantly interact with you guys without having to post a video. So like if I have a sale code or if I'm want to get your opinion about something, or if you want to leave me your opinion about something or ask a question. I don't know. I probably don't say it enough because I'm not one of those YouTubers who's like, subscribe, hit the little bell. Maybe I should be. I don't know. It just never really occurs to me to say that because I just figure if you like the content, then you will. And if you don't, then you won't. And that's okay. either way, it's totally okay. I'm blessed to be able to be in this community and do what I do. But I get it. It's not going to be for everybody. I'm not going to be for everybody, and that's totally okay. But so if you feel like, I feel like I'll probably be utilizing the community tab a lot more, so be on the lookout for that. Then also, a lot of you guys, which is very, very sweet, a lot of you guys comment a lot on my fingernail polish or designs or whatever. And I think I'm actually going to be sharing that more like in my Instagram story. So if you have Instagram, my username is, it's an abbreviation for Dispatcher 6194, which is my badge number. And so it's D as in David, I, S as in Sam, P as in Paul, 6194. So if you are not following me on Instagram, I would encourage you, if you want to know the little nail things, to head over there. Also, if you just want to see random photos that I post of things that I'm doing, Instagram's a pretty good place to be. Also, my blog does have a Facebook page. My blog's name is You and Your Big Dreams. So there, I share videos there. Pretty much if you subscribe on YouTube, you're almost just about guaranteed to see the content that I'm putting on Facebook. But you do have Facebook Messenger there. A lot of people request to be my friend on my personal Facebook page, which I don't really share anything crafty on there. So just an FYI on that. This is a super long video and I haven't even told a fun story. Okay. So I don't know. What's, clickbait. You guys get sucked into clickbait? I get sucked into clickbait all the time. Again, side note, I decided to make his scarf blue. And the reason that I decided to make his scarf blue is because I knew these navies would be dark enough to cover up that red and it wouldn't be no thing. So that is what I'm doing there. Because I'm not talking about any of the shading whatsoever. So anyway, clickbait. I get sucked to it on Facebook. I get sucked into it just on the internet in general, just random things. Last week, I literally watched somebody, it was a video where somebody had scooped out like an obstacle course in sand and then they let marbles go and then they basically narrated it like it was a sporting event. Like they gave the little marbles names, and I'm not kidding you, I watched that whole video and was even rooting for some of them, which is really kind of sad. So anyway, I watched that video and then that led me to another video for this girl who hadn't washed her hair in a year. That was the video. She hadn't washed her hair in a year. But then when you open the video, she basically said she washed her hair with water for a year. So she didn't use soap, shampoo, anything like that. She just rinsed it basically every day for a year, just regular water. And I cannot even tell you how many people commented in the comments section about how it was clickbait because it said she didn't wash her hair, but she did wash her hair because she washed her hair with water. Like they were so offended. Like they were like, this video is so misleading. You did wash it. You washed it with water. What? You washed it with water? I don't even understand what you're saying to me. But anyway, so that video then led me to another video basically where this guy was talking about like a super embarrassing moment. This is not my super embarrassing moment, but I'm going to share it with you anyway because I laughed hard. So basically this guy's been dating this girl. They're relatively serious. Been dating for about like 9 months-ish, I think he said. And they go to dinner. They eat dinner, and then after dinner they go to a movie. They go up to, like, who doesn't get snacks when they go to the movie? We always get snacks when we go to the movie, even though it basically costs you, the blood of your firstborn child. But anyway, so they go up to the counter and she's like, what do you want? And he was like, popcorn. And he's like, I don't even normally I don't even know if I like popcorn. I never get popcorn, but I tell her I want popcorn. And then the girl behind the counter is like, do you want a large popcorn or small popcorn? And he's like, give me the big one, give me the big popcorn. But I still don't even know if I like it. He's like, meanwhile, in the previews of the movie, I eat the entire large popcorn, which I got to tell you, for me is like crazy. I'm a grazer. I eat a handful of this, a handful of that. I'm done. I don't know how one consumes an entire large popcorn. But anyway, this guy did. And then they watch the movie, blah, 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 blah. On the way home, he realizes he's now in a situation. He is nauseous. He's feeling sick to his stomach. He's cold sweats, the whole deal. He's trying not to embarrass himself in front of this girl that he's dating. She looks over at him, is like, wow, you look green. Like, what is going on? And he's like, I don't feel well. And she's like, do we need to pull over somewhere? Blah, blah, blah. And he decides, he's like, I'm going to man up, and I'm not going to be sick. I'm just telling myself, like, ironclad will, telling myself I'm not going to be sick. I'm not going to be sick. So they're driving for like another 20 minutes or whatever. And now the popcorn has reversed. Now he no longer is sick to his stomach and wants to throw up, but now he is sick to his stomach and like desperately needs a restroom. Like we're in DEFCON 1. He's got a situation. Poor guy. I don't mean to laugh, but poop is funny. So, anyway, so now they're like, he's trying to get home as fast as he possibly can. He's driving on the highway, trying to get home. He gets on the highway. They're on the highway for maybe like 5 minutes, and they have about another 20 minutes to go until they're home. And it's like totally deadlocked traffic. So here's this poor guy stuck on the highway, desperately in need of a restroom in just complete gridlock traffic. She's like, okay, listen, there's an exit up here with like an Arby's in it. Like, just get off at this next exit and you can hit up the Arby's. So he gets off at the next exit, but then he sees like the Arby's is packed and it's like there's only one restroom, and he's like, I can't go in there. Then people will know it is me, which, you know what? Here's the deal. There's two schools of thought on this. If you have a one stall restroom, either you will not use the restroom because people will know it is you, or you will use the restroom because you cannot go to the bathroom sharing a restroom with a bunch of other people. So whichever way you fall, apparently this guy falls with he can't use the restroom because everybody will know it's him who just like burned down the walls in there. So he's like, I'm just going to try to make it home. He realizes he's not going to make it home. He's like full blown cold sweats, totally in a situation. He sees an abandoned building and like pulls over into this parking lot of this abandoned building, basically throws the car in park, throws the car door open, runs out of the car. It's still like the seatbelt thing is still dinging, runs behind a dumpster, and just drops trow. Like he's just, I can't even imagine what that must be like. I totally feel for the guy, even while I am laughing at his misfortune. Because I would pretty much just die. I would be like, listen, just go ahead and get in the driver's seat and drive away, because right after this happens, I'm going to die. So then he's like, I wasn't even worried about the recovery of the situation, and I realized I don't have like toilet paper or leaves or anything. So he decides he's going to sacrifice his underwear, and he's like, as I'm like sitting there behind this dumpster, I just hear her laughing hysterically from the car, and like that's how he knew he was a keeper. And I thought it was absolutely hysterical, because like that's one of the things about marriage, like all of these things that you share that you ain't sharing with nobody else, except for this guy shared it with the whole internet, and then made me laugh for 20 minutes. But anyway, now that all the coloring's done, die cut all of these little characters. I couldn't get the placement of this bear right. I kept having to pick him back up, which, thank goodness for Tempo Mono Multi-Glue, which gives you a little bit of that grace. But I did get some stickiness on my background. So I just went in with a plain white eraser to erase up the stickiness. I also tried a little bit of the mono sanding eraser. But I was very, very careful with that because it is sanding the paper and I've got a lot of color on here. So once he's glued down flat, I'm going to pop up the little bunny and the little kitty with a little bird on its head, which I think is so totally cute. I'm going to pop them up on some dimensional adhesive just so that they're a little bit closer than the bear is. And I barely fit these guys on the porch. I should have made this porch bigger, but I thought I had enough room. I apparently just narrowly made it. So I popped those up, and then the last thing that I'm going to do is just add some clear Winkestella where the glowy part is, and then also on the snow. I opted not to put a sentiment on this card because I wanted to I didn't want to overcrowd it. It's already very busy. We got a lot of stuff going on here. So I just decided that I would put it on the inside when I was ready to mail it. So that is the whole video. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will be back relatively soon with another one. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.